Are you a young adult that wants to be able to travel and have interesting adventures? But if you're in college or just starting a career, maybe it seems like you never have the money. Martin Dasko from Studenomics shares tips on how he was able to do this and how you can too. Welcome to the MapleMoney Show, the podcast that helps Canadians improve their personal finances to create lasting financial freedom. Make your money make more money. Our sponsor, Wealthsimple, will build you an intelligent, personalized portfolio using a Nobel Prize-winning investment strategy. MapleMoney listeners get their first $10,000 managed for free for 1 year. Head over to maplemoney.com/wealthsimple today. Now let's get to Martin. Hi, Martin. Welcome to the Maple Money Show.
Thanks for finally having me on, Tom. How's it going?
Great to have you on. So I want to talk to you about, I know even at a young age, you were younger age than you are now, you were always good with money. I sort of want to talk to you about how that's been able to lead into some of the adventures you've been on, whether that's travel or other things we'll get into. It seems like you've had a good balance of not going crazy with your money, but then still being able to spend it when it comes to the things you actually care about and not just wasting it all.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah. So I guess let's start from the beginning. Can you kind of talk about even younger on how you were with money and how that's allowed you to do things?
So I some people have like an emotional story how they want it to be financially free or because their family or they have kids. I was just a greedy teenager always. Like my parents, they were immigrants. Like they did their best to give us whatever we wanted, but I just wanted more. I just wanted to have stuff all the time. So my mom was just like, "Okay, get a job. You can buy whatever you want." So when I was in grade 7, I started selling chocolates. I used to sell chocolates door to door. Very shady. Did not trust it at all. Like these guys would drive us around in a van and drop us off and we'd sell chocolates.
Wow.
So my parents put a stop to that. And then, so the fast forward when I was 17, 18, I was going to college. I'm like, man, this stuff's expensive. And I really wanted to party. Like I really wanted to do a lot of cool things. Like I saw older friends traveling and stuff. And I thought to myself, like, I want to have a fun life. Mm-hmm. How can I make this happen? So that's when I started reading, I started reading about how to get rich. So full disclosure, I went through all the usual, like get rich quick stuff first. I read all that nonsense. Then I found personal finance blogs like in 2007, 2008. I'm like, wow, this stuff makes sense. Put your money away. If you put money away, you can do whatever you want. So then I kind of just got into personal finance and like I wanted more money to have more fun. And it was pretty much that simple.
Nice. I gotta admit, I've always been a little jealous of how you handled money in your 20s because but 20 to 30 for me was pretty much wasted. Going out to party with friends, spending it on like car stereo equipment and stuff like that. So I kind of lost that decade.
I wasn't smart or anything. I just thought kind of a turning moment for me was when I was working at Canadian Tire. So our Canadian people obviously know what that is, or hopefully know what that is. I was working there and my neighbor worked there. He was my age and his dad worked there and his dad was like 67. He was like close to 70.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was kind of weird, right? Like I didn't want to be disrespectful, but like, why is his dad working here with us? And then he told me one day, my buddy told me, he goes, my dad like didn't plan for retirement. He never saved money and now he's stuck working after retirement. So I was like, man, I do not want that to happen. Like I want to have the easiest, best life possible.
Yeah.
That's why I started reading up about personal finance and I looked into this stuff because I wanted just to have a lot of fun. I didn't want to work till I'm 60, never mind 30, 40, but 60, 70? That sounded crazy to me.
So I think I might know what it is, but let's see. What was sort of your first big adventure? I know at one point, it was quite a while ago, you went on a long trip. I think it was for quite a while. But let me know, was there a certain sort of big first adventure that where you kind of took this money and started doing something different with it?
Actually, not at all. Let me think. Okay, so I had a friend who traveled more than me, and I thought he was rich. So like when you're young, you're kind of immature. You're like, oh, this guy must be lucky. His parents must have paid for him. But that wasn't the case. That, what he told me, he goes, look, man, he goes, you put aside $20 every week and you can have $1,000 at the end of the year and you can travel. So I'm like, that makes no sense. How could $20 a week lead to anything, right? It's like when you first start working out, you don't think, oh, I'm going to do a couple push-ups. You don't think, oh, I'm going to save $20, right?
Yeah.
I give it a try. Then I realized this actually adds up. Like, this is crazy. And it adds up to a lot of money. So my first adventure wasn't not much of an adventure. I turned 18 and my buddy Vince and we went to Cuba.
Nice.
And we thought it was the coolest thing ever. Because up until then, you're living at home. You're always with your parents. Like, you're under their roof.
Yeah.
So we turned 18 and we went alone to Cuba. And we thought it was going to be like the craziest spring break ever. We got there. We were like at an adult resort. So it was pretty tame. So we're like, oh, at least we're not in Toronto in the winter. We're like, at least we can travel. At least we know how now. Like if it felt, it feels pretty cool when you're 18. You're going on a plane by yourself. You're crossing customs. And plus, we weren't even old enough to drink back home. So we thought we were so cool. We're drinking and hanging out there. We're like, wow, we got the life.
So you were able to do that pretty cheaply then?
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about adventures is that we think they cost millions of dollars. Because if you watch a movie, you see that they're staying like in a 5-star resort and they're living the life.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, you can book a cheap flight and get an Airbnb, or you can book a cheap resort like we did. We found a resort for $1,000, and we're like, we did it. We made it happen.
Nice.
And then my first big adventure was when I realized that I wanted to do a post-college grad trip.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the mistake of trying to get all my buddies to come. And if you know anything about guys in their 20s, is that they can't save any money.
Yeah, that was me, like I said.
So I saved up. I was putting aside, 20, 40, $50. I started blogging. I was making money. So I created like a separate vacation account. So I had a sub savings account. So the money was coming in and I had the money ready to go, but none of my friends could afford it. And not that they couldn't afford it. They weren't trying. Like they were partying every weekend. They were blowing all their money. And it was driving me nuts because then I almost accepted that. Like, I'm not going to go on a Euro trip. I'm not going to go on a grad trip. Like, this is it for me. I'm going to get a job and just never travel. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
And then one day, I read, I think it was the 4-Hour Work Week or something. I started reading all this stuff. And then I realized I don't really need anybody. So I didn't tell my parents. And I booked that trip to Europe by myself. And that was the scariest thing I've ever done. Because, usually when you book something, you're booking with your buddies or with your wife, your family. And it feels kind of comfortable.
Yeah.
This is just me. So I booked this trip to Poland, and as soon as I did it, I was like, what did I do? I told my parents, and they lost their minds. They're like, you're going to get robbed. They're going to kill you. And like everyone is panicking. Everyone's like, how could you travel alone? You're a loser. Don't you have any friends? Everybody gave me grief. But truth be told, that trip changed my life. Like I realized I could travel alone. I went to Europe all by myself. Luckily, I speak Polish, and I survived the whole month. And a funny thing happened. On this trip, everyone started telling me what a great idea it was. The same people who were making fun of me were like, oh, I wish I could afford it. I wish I could do this. I wish I could be there. And now they're like, wow, you're so smart. I wish I did that.
Well, yeah, I've seen a lot on kind of the solo travel nowadays. It seems to be catching on. I think that was the trip I was thinking of with you where I remember you had a bunch of pictures of just you with a backpack and going around Europe. So
I'll tell you this. You really learn to trust people when you give them your phone, especially on my last trip. I had the iPhone 10 and I'm asking random strangers to take photos of me. I'm like, wait a minute. This person could just run with my camera and I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of like Australia or like in Thailand. I'm like, this guy could just take my camera and run and I'll have no camera left. Like, what am I doing?
Well, no phone either. All your contacts and everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah. All the pictures gone.
Yeah. So what other kind of ventures have you been on other than travel? I know one of your sort of, is it a hobby or side gig is you also are a pro wrestler in addition to being a personal finance blogger.
I think I'm the only personal finance blogger who moonlights as a pro wrestler, right?
I'm pretty sure you're the only one that checks those two boxes off.
Yeah. So the best part about saving money is like, it's boring when you're doing it. Like when you're saving up and you have to stay in sometimes and you're always trying to make more money. Like it gets annoying. Like my friends get annoyed. They're like, come out. I'm like, no, I'm trying to save up. The whole journey kind of sucks until you have the money. Mm-hmm. So like my whole goal was to buy a condo. So the first thing I did was I bought a condo and I rented it out and then I sold it. So I made my first ever 6-figure payday. So all of a sudden I had over $100,000 in the bank for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
I was like in my early mid 20s. I'm like, this is amazing. Like I'm rich. I'm a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire, but you feel like one. So then once you accomplish that, you're like, what's next? So I always watched pro wrestling growing up. It's one of those like guilty pleasures most people have. Most people won't admit it, but I think everyone grew up watching at least one wrestling match at some point.
Oh yeah, I sure did.
So then I was 25 and like I wanted to get super jacked. I'm like, okay, I've been saving money. I know what to do now. I'm like, I need to take on a new challenge. So a gym opened up near me. This guy, Santino Marella, he's a famous wrestler. He was at the time. Semi-famous now, if he's listening. And I was like, why don't I just join? Like, why don't I try something different? Like, because like the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So I'm like, if I could travel alone, why can't I wrestle in my underwear in front of people, right? If I'm publishing content and doing all this stuff online, why not do this? So I joined the gym just for fun, just to try it out so I can tell people I tried it. And then something weird happened. I actually got into it. I'm like, this is actually really fun. Because like I've been, you do like public speaking in college. You kind of slowly like test the waters with that kind of stuff. You go on dates. You can slowly get better at speaking. So I joined pro wrestling. All of a sudden, I'm doing public speaking in my underwear in front of like a couple hundred people. And it was just like the craziest thing. It's just because I got my finances in order. I've had the time and the ability to take on hobbies that are ridiculous. Like I'll admit, pro wrestling is the most ridiculous hobby you can have in the world. You're going around. I go around Ontario like wrestling in my underwear, for fun. And I play a villain, so I get to bother. I get to be the antagonist. I get to be a jerk, and it's like a microcosm of society. Every bad idea you ever have, you can portray it as your character.
It sounds fun, and I really like the idea that you're able to do that again because of the way you've been with money. Like if you were sort of stuck in a job where you're working 10 hours a day, then that would certainly cut into your ability to do these kind of things.
Well, that's the whole reason I got into personal finance, was because I wanted to have a fun life.
Yeah.
And people think that like I get this to this day. Even I think it was yesterday, someone was telling me how like, oh, budgeting's so boring, money management is boring. Like that part of it is like looking at your bank account. It's not exciting. Like I don't care who says it is, but the exciting part is like knowing you can do whatever you want. Because life's a lot better when you don't have to stress about paying your mortgage or about how you're going to eat your next meal.
Yeah, it makes sense. You're focused on the result and not the boring part of.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's all I think about is the result. 100% the result.
Are there any other sort of interesting adventures you've been able to do? Whether it's something just off the cuff like pro wrestling or other trips or anything?
Oh yeah, I got many stories. So where do I start? So last weekend I've been seeing a young lady, so things are going well. So the beauty about having money saved is you can go on last minute trips. So I messaged her and we just treated ourselves to the Bahamas in the last minute,
Yeah.
Like when I was 20 years old, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be 30 and be able to travel. So it felt so cool to spend it was a long weekend here to spend it in the Bahamas with someone you're dating. And it's just awesome to get away like that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Another trip, I got to visit my brothers both moved to Australia. Oh. And like when I was young, I dreamed of like going to Australia, but it's like, you watch The Simpsons, you're like, oh, that sounds cool. But you're like, that's never going to actually happen to me. And then something funny happened. We have a Canada savings bonds in Canada, Canadian savings bonds in Canada. So for some reason, when I was 17, I decided to buy into this plan. Like, I don't know why. It's not the best investment, whatever. Yeah. So I decided to put in like $50 every 2 weeks. It came right off like out of my bank account. And then I kept on getting them like a letter every year, like, okay, your account's at this. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So finally my account hit like 14,000 or something like that. So I called them up. I'm like, hey, can I like cash this thing in or can I get this money? They're like, yeah, it's your money. I'm like, oh, really? Cool. So I took the money and I went to visit my brothers in Australia. And like, nice. I hate flying. I hate long distance flights, but I bit the bullet and I went to Abu Dhabi, Thailand, and Australia by myself.
Nice.
And then when I was there, I did something I've always really wanted to do, but I was too afraid of. I went skydiving.
Oh yeah?
I had to go skydiving. I signed up by myself. There was a pretty girl selling the packages, so I was enticed a little bit. And then I signed up and I was like, screw it, I'm going skydiving, and somehow I pulled it off. I was pretty nervous, but it happened.
Okay, so if someone is enticed by this, they're in their say early 20s and they're really wanting to change the way they're dealing with their money, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, the first thing is always to get into the habit of saving money. Because like I know it's boring and all, but even if you start saving $20 a week or $15 or $50, whatever you can afford, try to get into the habit of saving money. Because without money in the bank, you can't do anything. And if you need a reason to save money, I call it the Cancun technique. I was in Cancun 6 years ago, and it's Cancun, right? So it's all just clubs. So I'm talking to the guy, and there's a nightclub, right? And I'm like, oh, how much are tickets? He goes, $60 US to get in. I'm like, dude, no one's gonna pay $60 US to get into a club. And the guy looks at me, he goes, young people will always find a way to get into a club. Don't worry about it. So of course I paid my $60. I get into the club. First of all, there's an hour line to get in. That's a lineup of people paying $60.
Yeah.
And then you get in, and there's like 4,000 people that all paid $60 just to be there. So I call it the Cancun technique because young people will always find a way to get money for what they want. So find your Cancun.
Yeah.
Like what's your thing going to be? And you have to pick one thing. That's the thing that you can do. So for me, it's travel. It doesn't have to be travel. I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you, oh, you have to travel, you have to see the world, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. Not everyone likes to travel. You gotta pick your thing. It could be cars. It could be buying a real estate, buying a rental, buying a condo. Pick that thing and then focus on making it happen, and then start saving up, and then just research. Like, we have the internet available to us. It's ridiculous. I've been able to research everything. Like when I bought my rental property, I was clueless. So I didn't know anything. So I Googled tenant applications. And the first thing I found was a tenant application. So I literally just printed it out and I brought it to the tenant. I'm like, okay. Then he filled it out. I'm like, okay, what do I do now? Well, I Googled, what do you do with a tenant application? And it's like, call the places. I'm like, okay, I did that. And then, yeah, I found a tenant for my rental property. Nice. So you gotta pick your thing, do lots of research, and just start saving up, make it happen. And if you're not saving up enough, maybe it's because you're not making enough money. Maybe you can get a side hustle. You can do freelance writing. I've driven for Uber. I've tried every side hustle just to increase that savings account.
Yeah, I like the side hustles you've done. Does pro wrestling count as that? Do you get paid for that, or?
I do, but it's like
for the
if
shows.
you're trying to be an actor, it's like you don't make any money until you hit it big.
Yeah, you still have to be a waiter on the side, kind of thing.
Yeah, or personal finance blogger on the side.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those things where, like, once you get signed, fingers crossed, then you become a millionaire. Then I'll probably never talk to you again, Tom. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I'll hold on to this episode. That time I got to talk to the what is it, Latin lover? Is that?
Oh, you know what?
Any other good tips like that for someone looking to get going on this?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to make more money, and this is where a lot of us get stuck because chances are you're just not making enough money. I've talked to friends, and they've laid out their finances to me. I'm like you're just not making enough. So simple things like even trying to get better at your job can go a long way.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to a buddy, and he's just not making enough money, and he goes, oh, I don't have any time for a side hustle, which is cool. Not everyone has to have a side hustle. So I was like, could you take any courses? Could you do anything? So he went to the HR department. He asked about courses, and then he took a course. And like most jobs will pay for you to upgrade your skills. Mm-hmm. So like you can just upgrade your skills at your current job and make more money. Like I'm not gonna give that traditional tip. Some people will say, "Oh, start a blog." That's not the answer.
Yeah, that's a slow build.
or people will say, "Go to yard sales and sell stuff." I think that's really annoying. I think that one's played out.
What are some good ways to make extra money if you're in college? Like I know when I was in college, I was working part-time at Subway, and I think it was like minimum wage, and so there really wasn't enough money, and of course some of the options online a lot of the options online didn't exist.
Filling out surveys.
Yeah. So there was only so much you could do back then, but now there's a lot more options. If you were as far back as college, what would you do?
As far back, I'm a young man here. First of all,
it's been a while even for you now. But
7 years. I'm still a young man. I'm only 30 years young. Yeah. Okay. If you're a college student, I am jealous of you. College is the best time to start a business because you could start a business that's fun. Like I'm 30 years old. I can't be hanging around college students. If you're a college student, you can. Like my buddy made money by throwing parties at his where he lived. Nice. You can throw parties. You can become a DJ, and you can pick up a skill. My cousin picked up a guitar. He wanted to meet girls. To be honest, he picked up guitar, and then he picked up the accordion, And like these two skills have led to so much money. Because as a student, you have all the time in the world. Like I don't care how busy you think you are, you're not. Chances are you wake up at noon, which is fine. I'm not judging. I've done the same thing, still do sometimes. But you have all the time in the world. Pick up some skills. Pick up try to play the guitar, try to learn how to be a DJ, learn how to throw events, learn how to do something and do that. Like you have your weekends free, you have no kids, you have no job that makes you tired. You have some class on Thursday, by Saturday you forgot about it. Like my cousin made a killing in college playing guitar and an accordion at weddings. Or like you said you were a DJ, right?
Yeah, I was. Soon after my career at Subway, I was
Illustrious career.
Yeah, I was DJing, but I never even thought of it as a great way to make money. I might make $50, but to me, it was also that I got into the club. Like instead of paying to get in,
well, that's what I mean. When you're young,
be there.
Because when you're young, you have energy and you want to party. But the things that are a party can also make you money, which is just mind-boggling to think about.
Yeah, exactly. And I like I said, I barely even thought of it that way. It was extra money, but at least it was money coming in instead of money going out just to get into the same building. So.
Exactly. And here's another thing. If let's say you want to just keep your partying separate, which I understand, apply for jobs on campus. Like as a student, I didn't realize how much work there was on campus. Like a college campus could be the size of a town sometimes. I remember I didn't learn this until my last year. I started applying for like random jobs. I got an exam invigilator job. It's like I would just go on the job board and I thought that like these jobs would be taken.
Yeah.
But it turns out all students are lazy and nobody applies for anything. So I would apply for these like ridiculous jobs I had no business doing. So I applied for exam invigilator and I was the guy that watched you write exams. Like I got paid 20 something bucks an hour to watch people write exams. Like, isn't that crazy?
Yes, yeah, I never even thought of that. I never once looked at a job board while I was in college. So.
That's what I figured. I'm like, these jobs will be taken. I'm like, how could this job not be taken, right?
Yeah,
I applied.
sure.
They're like, oh, can you come on Monday? I'm like, wait, is there an interview? Like, they're like, no, like we need you Monday. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, don't they have to interview me? At least ask you a few questions.
Well, all they need you to do is walk up and down an aisle.
hey, I took pride in my walking up and down that aisle. That's the only aisle I'm walking down.
Nice.
And also another way to make ridiculous money in college. Let's say you don't want to be a DJ, you don't want to learn any skills, you don't want to throw parties, you don't want to do anything fun. Apply for free money. I remember I was walking around my campus and I ran into a buddy. He goes, oh, because we had a 4-hour spare. So you know what that means, that we just sat around and talked about girls and whatever.
Yeah.
He goes, let's go. Like, I don't know if they have this in America, but it's like bursaries and scholarships and stuff and grants, right? I didn't realize this, but like most of these scholarships, all they require is an essay. Like it'll be like an essay. Why should we give you this money? So my buddy showed me he showed me this, but I checked into this. Every college website has this. Go under the financing page or funding page, and look up bursaries, grants, scholarships, whatever the word is. Look up whatever your school offers and apply for it. Like it was offensively easy. I didn't realize how simple it was to actually apply for money. So we applied for like bursaries, and some of them you could just tell the truth. Like, look, I just want extra money, and like these companies have money to give away. And I remember I got a check for like $300 just because I said I wanted extra money.
Well, and just like I didn't look at a job board, I didn't look at scholarships back then. But
it's ridiculous. I had a girlfriend in college. She had a Native American background, and she applied for some like Aboriginals people scholarship. And it turns out nobody else applied for it, and she got like $4,000 or something ridiculous. I was like, "What? You're getting a check for $4,000? Like that's a lot of subs. That's a lot of subs you have to make, right?"
Yeah, exactly. This is a good time to plug too that there's actually a MapleMoney scholarship at MapleMoney.com/scholarship, and the amount of people that apply is really low. So,
really, what's the scholarship for?
Writing a personal finance essay.
We have this thing where we'll write a Facebook status post that's like 6,000 words. It's like a dissertation.
Yeah,
but we won't write an essay that's I did the math on this. It's like you can sit down, write like a corny essay for like an hour and get like $2,000 or $200.
Yeah,
that's
this is $1,000 Canadian.
Wow.
And it's based around the financial literacy month. They'll every year financial literacy month comes around, and they have a set topic for it every year, and we just piggyback off that and use that topic as
really?
the scholarship topic. So Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? All you gotta do is write an essay, like things that we do and we have to pay when you attend a class. You pay to attend a class and they make you write like 10 essays.
Yeah.
And we won't sit down to write an essay to get a couple $1,000s.
Yeah. And the hope there is that it's getting young people to think about personal finance. Like maybe they haven't even thought about personal finance, their money, all that. And when they sit down to come up with an essay around this, is hopefully it's going to help them, whether or not they get the $1,000, whether or not they're the one selected. But anyways, so we're running out of time here. Thanks for being on. I just wanted you to let everybody know what you've been up to and where they can find you. So
I keep it simple. It's Studenomics on everything, except for Tinder at the moment. I'm on pause there, but I'm on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, blog. You can search me on Amazon. I'm everywhere you can want to go. I'm there. Studenomics. Find me. I post good stuff. Don't worry. I'm not boring. I don't lecture you. I won't tell you to stay in 24/7. I try to make this stuff fun.
And you also have a podcast. Do you want to plug that?
Why not? If you're feeling generous. Do you even hustle? So we interview people with cool stories, and I mean, we're just showing you guys that this stuff could be done. If I could do it, if Tom could do it, anybody can do it.
Great. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening, and thanks to Martin Dasko for taking me back to my college days and showing people a better way to enjoy your 20s. You can find show notes for this episode at MapleMoney.com/Martin Dasko. Scholarships came up on this show, and I mentioned the $1,000 MapleMoney Financial Literacy Scholarship. The deadline for the scholarship is October 1st, and we'll reboot with a new essay topic in November as part of Financial Literacy Month. If you're in a college or university this year or know someone who is, please check out MapleMoney.com/scholarship for all the details.